Hello, West Ham Network. It's Holly, and today we are going to be discussing the most likely scenarios that could play out at this point in the transfer window. And it all centres around one singular question: loan or buy? Let's go. Yes, West Ham Network. I hope everyone's well that's watching. If you enjoy this video, as always, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the West Ham Network. And excuse my slightly croaky voice, it's back. The voice is back, so I can record. However, there are points where I still sound like a teenage boy, so you'll have to excuse me. But a question that we were hoping would be answered by now: loan or buy this January? So there's a lot to run through. We're going to start with the basics. First of all, there's no denying that we absolutely need a striker. But if we have £57 million available, which is what we bid for Duran reportedly, but not any more than that without actually selling players, is there a good option available for us to commit to buying at this point in the window? So I hate to say it, but I worry that time has completely run out for us to make a good purchase, because if Duran said yes to the 57 million, then that would have been done and it would have worked and it would have done the job. But now it's incredibly obvious what funds we have available, because we've literally put it out that if we want somebody, we will pay 57 million for them. And we've got 12 days until deadline day. So there's not now time to sell players, negotiate, and be confident that we're going to be able to actually get our top targets in. And it also carries the risk of, imagine if we sold to get finances and then we didn't manage to reinvest that money and we ended up with even less squad depth. That would be even worse. So there are risks now with everything running so close to the end of the transfer window. There is, however, definitely time to get someone, and this is what we're going to be talking about today. But do I think it's going to be a superstar name? Do I think it's going to be the striker that we'd all hoped for at the beginning of last summer, this January? No, I don't, unfortunately. And this leaves me wondering who we'll get and whether it's going to be a loan or a permanent deal. We know that January is notoriously difficult to buy during, because you're either bringing in players that aren't getting game time and are clearly backups for their team at the moment, or you're trying to take someone's best striker for an inflated amount of money. So the whole challenge that we face being so desperate for a striker in January is that people know that. People know we've shown our hand in terms of the money, and whoever we buy from at this moment is going to have such little time to find a replacement, especially so close to the end of the window. So they're going to be overcharging. We are going to be paying a premium at this moment in time, unless it's someone that they're literally happy to get rid of. And does that excite us as fans? Does that say this is going to be the person to save our season and score our goals? Not necessarily. But that is why we're looking at Evan Ferguson, who hasn't had enough time at Brighton. He has been injured. He hasn't had much game time to find that ongoing form, but we know that he's talented. Brighton have got Danny Welbeck and João Pedro, so they wouldn't need to bring a replacement in. They've got two options even without Ferguson, and therefore might be more willing to let him go this late in the transfer window. But again, like we said, his injury record is a big cause for concern. The same can be said for Taiwo Awoniyi at Forest. He's playing second fiddle to Chris Wood. You've got Muniz at Fulham. He's second choice to Raul Jimenez. Andre Silva is another that isn't first choice at RB Leipzig. So there's a lot of players that aren't first choice. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be straightforward getting them, but these are the names that we're seeing a lot out there. And then with Duran, Villa sound like they wouldn't want to sell him mid-season, because they've got they have got cup competitions like the Champions League. The voice is going, like the Champions League to be in, and he does perform well for them when he's given game time, and he's signed a long-term deal. So are they in any rush to sell him? No. And in summer, they probably can have a lot more people sniffing around for his signature, offering a lot more money, quite possibly. So these are the other things to consider when you're hoping that you can get someone like Duran in, but it's not always the easiest or the best option. Liam Delap at Ipswich, he's attracting a lot of interest from the likes of Chelsea, Spurs, and other big names. So it could be difficult to get his signature. Plus, Ipswich would be absolutely mad to sell Delap in January, because he's key to them staying up. And if he is able to play a part in keeping them in the Premier League, that is worth hundreds and hundreds of £1 million. So even if they go down, they'll still get a decent amount for him. So accepting 60 million now would be pretty crazy, running the risk of getting relegated as a result, and you would still get 50 million for him even if they went down. So I don't think they're going to be in any rush to feel pressure to sell him. Jonathan David of Lille, he's unlikely to come to us because he's a free agent in the summer, so he's going to have his choice of clubs, and with that, as we know, with a free agent you get that signing on bonus that he will personally receive. Instead of it going to Lille, it will probably work out cheaper for the club that buy him. It will work out more beneficial to him, and Lille will be sort of out as a middleman. So yeah, we've got a long list, as always, of players that we've been linked with, and it just brings up a really interesting point, because I don't think that any of these names would have been our plan A. If you were to say in summer, which transfer targets do you want to bring in? I'm not sure. I know we've been linked with some of these players, but I'm not sure many of us would go, that is the exact player at this moment in time, given the injuries that we're talking about with some of these players, given the overinflated costs, that we would go, yes, this is the player that we need to put everything on the line and pursue, because it looks as though we're probably, financial fair play wise, spending the summer's money now if we're spending 50, 60 million on somebody. So it needs to be someone that's good. And yeah, these players aren't necessarily players that we'd go for in the summer, all of them. Otherwise, we would have tried harder to get them last summer and we would have potentially been successful. So the question that I've got for you today is, are there any of these players that you want now, and would you still want them in summer, or are you wanting to get more ambitious in summer and we just need a stopgap? So what do I think is going to happen? I think we've shown our hand of £57 million. Whether this was a tactical January bid that we knew would get rejected, it's made it really hard for us to be able to negotiate without massively overpaying for any players, because essentially they're going to be a risk anyway. And people know we have 57 million, so you can't play hardball with the whole we don't have the finances side of stuff. So it's common practice to pay over the odds, but I think that that's going to be something that's very difficult to avoid now, should we bring anybody in. We really need at least one more option up top, so we're not relying on Ings and Bowen playing out of position as soon as he comes back from injury. Seen some pictures, he looks like he's doing really well training-wise, so happy with that. But it doesn't seem like a long-term, this is going to be us for the rest of the season kind of situation. Getting Bowen back in midfield would give us more options. We need a striker up top, essentially. But for me, I think a win at this point would be getting Evan Ferguson, because he's young, he's clearly talented. We do know that he is still a risk with his injuries. He's injured at the moment, I believe, still, but I don't think it'll be long before he's back. So getting him on loan with an option to buy could be a pretty good bit of business at this moment in time, which would help us very soon where we need it most, be affordable and reduce the risk as much as possible, I suppose. So get somebody in that I do think, if they're fit, could make a difference to our season. And just get him in on loan, option to buy or obligation to buy, and say a little prayer that that injury is not too serious and that he doesn't get any others, because who gets injured at West Ham? Not a clue. So anyway, that's where we kind of stand, in my opinion. Would I have liked us to sign a striker on a permanent this window? Absolutely. But do I want us to overpay on someone that their club doesn't currently see a need for or currently see a value in having, when each potential signing that we've spoken about there seems to have a decent number of drawbacks in one way or another, whether it's a big risk because they're injury prone, whether they're currently injured and are going to need to come back from injury? I'm just concerned, because we're talking about a squad where we're trying to replace a position because people keep being injured there. And we've got an older Danny Ings who hasn't been playing a lot of game time. So you stick him up top loads, I get concerned he could get injured. We've got Bowen who can play up top, but coming back from injury, is he at risk of needing time out? Is he going to need to be introduced slowly? I would imagine so. So there's all these factors to consider, where basically we need someone that can give us a full 90 right now. Do I think we have a player that can score us goals while doing that in that list of players? Probably not. Am I most excited probably about Evan Ferguson? I think so. So would I take the risk that maybe he'll come back from injury and be able to hit the ground running? I think that probably would be my decision. And then in summer, we've got to invest massively. A lot of us had written the season off already. I still think we can get a decent mid-table finish, if not higher. I hope that Potter can bring the most out of players that we already have. So not necessarily signings that we need to bring in to fix things a little bit. But yeah, I just think it's going to be stop the leaks and go again in summer, unfortunately, which isn't what any of us wanted to hear. We all went into this January like, we need to hit the ground running. And yeah, here we find ourselves. As we stand, though, we've got Bowen coming back soon, Fulkrug and Antonio out, Ings available. We've never needed a striker more, but we also need this signing to be the right one. An expensive mistake here could really cost us, excuse me, could really cost us this season and next season if we're committing to spending early. So I think we've just got to be really careful with what we're doing, where we're investing, and not just making an expensive signing for the sake of it if this is going to be someone that's going to get injured or not perform for us, because we've done this many a time as strikers. We bring people in, they don't perform, or they don't fit our system, or something goes wrong, or they're out of favour with the manager, and then we sell them for a loss. And we can't be doing that if we're going to be trying to grow as a team. We could also see some changes with Macaulay potentially having a little bit more say in the summer. So there could be new targets, different approaches that we're taking by then when it comes to transfers. So it could be a lot of change. But the question I've got for you is, would you be disappointed if we secured somebody on loan, a decent player, and at this point, obviously, I know at the beginning of January we probably wanted permanence, but now, would you be disappointed if we signed someone that worked for us on loan, hopefully with an obligation to buy? And which players would you like to see up top for West Ham by the end of this transfer window? So let us know down below in that comment section. That is all for... I literally can't speak. I've been so ill this week. That is all from me for now. But tune in at 5 p.m. I'm going to be running through your Hammers headlines for today. I will catch you then. Don't forget to join us. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to West Ham Network. Catch you then. Have a great day. Come on, you Irons. Irons.